The Grand Council Hall of Alaris 9 gleamed like a pearl in the vacuum. It was a monument to diplomacy, neutrality, and the lofty belief that the galaxy could be reasoned with. Situated on a low-gravity moon dotted with platinum-veined stone gardens and chime trees that rang in windless air, the hall had seen peace treaties forged, empires dissolved, and one regrettable incident involving an ambassador and a teleporting eel. Today, it hosted something different. Something so small on paper that it had caused more laughter than worry in the days leading up to the summit. The humans were sending a single diplomat. A woman. Alone. She wasn't even military. Inside the council hall, aliens of every species and persuasion gathered. The Glythans sat coiled on their temperature-regulated dais, three eyes blinking in patterns of disdain. The Zareen swam weightlessly in their containment sphere, hissing philosophical judgments through their gill-plated translators. Even the Zarnak, self-declared lords of thermonuclear sovereignty, lounged like bored lizards near the solar array, claws flexing. And in the middle of it all, quietly seated on an unassuming chair with a checked wool cushion, was the human. She looked like someone's aunt. Mid-50s, gray at the temples, kind eyes behind old-fashioned glasses. Her hair was pinned back with something that glittered but didn't threaten. A soft lavender cardigan draped over her shoulders, and a steaming ceramic mug sat beside her on a tiny folding table. A tray of cookies, actual honest-to-stars cookies, rested in easy reach. The chatter died as representatives noticed her presence. She hadn't been escorted in. She was just sitting there. The Glythan representative slithered forward. "You are the envoy from Earth?" She looked up with a smile so warm it should have melted his scales. "Oh yes. Evelyn Shaw. I do hope I'm not late. There was a bit of a shuttle delay. Space weather, you know." The council exchanged glances. A few stifled snickers. The Zarnak Prime sneered openly. "You came alone?" "Well, yes. I was told it would be a diplomatic setting," she said gently, as if explaining snow to a furnace. "I figured I wouldn't need an escort unless someone planned to do something unpleasant." The room shifted. It was subtle, but real. "You are unarmed?" asked the Arvik delegate, its chitinous jaw clacking. "Dear, I'm wearing orthopedic shoes," Evelyn said. "And I've got a tea bag collection. I'd say the real danger here is if I don't get a kettle soon." A beat of silence passed. Then muffled laughter from the far end of the chamber, low and nervous. The Zareen emissary glided forward, bubbles drifting from its translator ports. "Earth's record is inconsistent. You wage wars over territory, insult trade partners, and your history is full of blood. But now you send a lone woman." "Oh, don't let the tea and cardigans fool you," Evelyn said, pouring herself a fresh cup. "We're still us. Just dressed for the weather." She sipped. The Zarnak growled low. "This is a mockery. The Empire of Heat and Bone demands proper representation." "I'm all you'll get today," Evelyn replied without raising her voice. "But by all means, declare your offense. I'm quite good at apologies." She folded her hands in her lap. The Glythan moved closer, scales hissing against the floor. "We have debated Earth's membership in the Central Alliance. Frankly, your species is too chaotic. Your politics, unstable. Your weaponry, unregulated. And your culture, unrefined, barbaric." Evelyn offered kindly. "Please, don't be shy. I've heard it all." The alien paused, surprised. She leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees. "We've been watched since we left our moon. We know. You've scanned our files, catalogued our wars, dissected our leaders' speeches. You call us primitive, aggressive, unpredictable. But that's not quite it, is it?" Several of the delegates shifted. The Arvik crossed two limbs in what passed for unease. "What is it then?" asked a soft voice from the shadows. Evelyn turned, finding the speaker, a small, silvery being from the Lutheri fold. "Wise. Quiet. Often ignored." She smiled, and her eyes sharpened by a fraction. "It's that we don't do what you expect. Not consistently. We're polite one minute, vicious the next. You can't model us. And that frightens you. There was no smile from the Zarnak now. Your kind destroyed a scouting fleet, he snapped. Yes, Evelyn said. They fired first. Didn't they? The room froze. We were told, the Arvik delegate began carefully, that the humans responded disproportionately. They brought a war fleet, she said, tone still as calm as tea in a saucer. We responded with a poem. That got a pause. A poem. 4 stanzas. In response, their fleet's targeting systems failed, internal temperatures rose to fatal levels, and their command structure collapsed from internal sabotage. We later released a declassified analysis titled, Do Not Interrupt the Human Muse. The Lutheri representative made a sound like wind through glass. The Zareen blinked. The Zarnak stood. This is psychological manipulation. Propaganda. Evelyn took a cookie from the tray and broke it in half. Would you like one? They're snickerdoodles. No. Shame. They're excellent. The Glithan shifted uneasily. You threaten us with poems and pastries. I never threaten, Evelyn replied. I offer possibilities. You choose which one you'd like to meet. A low murmur rose around the chamber. Some delegates were leaning forward now, others beginning to recalculate everything they'd assumed. Somewhere in the back, a tiny creature known only as Consultant 3 activated a hidden transmission relay. A voice crackled across the room, translated, decoded, and projected through the walls. Warning. Presence of Omega-level strategist confirmed. Recalculate risk matrix. Cease provocation immediately. The Zarnak flinched. Evelyn didn't move. That's an old designation, she said lightly. I haven't been Omega-level since I taught kids chess tournaments. The Glithan narrowed his eyes. Why are you here? Evelyn looked up at the ceiling, as though choosing her words. I suppose. I'm here to listen, to smile, to remind you that humans exist. We know you exist, spat the Zarnak. You're barely out of your gravity well. But we're everywhere, darling, she said, her voice honeyed. We're on your mining crews, your translation teams, your medships, quietly working, quietly learning. The Lutheri spoke again. Are you a threat? Evelyn's smile returned. I'm a librarian by training. I catalog things, books, patterns, weaknesses. The room went silent again. Far above, in a black orbit shadowed by the moon, several ships turned. Evelyn looked down at her tea. It's strange, you know. For centuries, we thought we were alone. We dreamed of finding others. Kind ones. Wise ones. But we arrived and found, well, you. She looked up. And you found us. The Glithan slithered back slowly. The Zareen rose higher in its sphere. The Zarnak seemed ready to pounce, and then stopped. Evelyn leaned back, content. Do you know what happened to the last species that underestimated us? No one answered. We don't either. They stopped broadcasting after the humans on their research colony filed a complaint with HR. Several beings glanced at each other. Evelyn opened a notebook from her lap. Now, shall we begin the agenda? I believe the first item was human behavioral restrictions in multi-species zones. I have some thoughts. She flipped a page. The noise was absurdly mundane, almost funny. But no one laughed. One delegate cleared his throat. Before we proceed, might we request backup representation from Earth? Evelyn looked puzzled. Oh, I'm afraid I am the backup. The first envoy was less patient. What happened to them? They were promoted. Posthumously. The Zarnak stepped forward, gaze fierce. This is intimidation. No, she said sweetly. This is intimidation. She tapped her mug. A quiet tone pinged through the room. Nothing else happened. The Zarnak sneered. That was And then his datapad screamed. Lines of code scrolled. Encryption dissolved. Fleet coordinates flashed in red. Every Zarnak vessel was being pinged, by itself. One by one, systems blinked offline. Evelyn took another sip. I'm very good at tea. And misdirection. The Zarnak sat down. Hard. The council was silent now. Evelyn stood. It was unremarkable. No fanfare. No sound. But something shifted. It was the way she stood. Balanced. Still. Like a mountain deciding whether to fall. She looked around the chamber, gaze resting on each delegate in turn. Let's not waste this chance. You called this summit to judge us. Fine. Judge away. But understand what you're looking at. You think we're chaotic? We are. Because chaos is flexible. It adapts. It survives. A pause. And when it smiles at you like this, she did, you'd best hope it's only being polite. The silence was full. She turned back to her seat, settling gently as if nothing had happened. Then she added conversationally, We've brought cake for later. Chocolate. Imported. I hope no one's allergic. No one answered. But across the council, beings began rethinking their definitions of threat, strategy, and the dangerous illusion of kindness. And Evelyn Shaw just sat there, sipping tea, the most terrifying person in the galaxy. A silence like thick velvet had settled over the council hall. Not the tense quiet of diplomacy, nor the hushed reverence of ritual. This was the silence of intelligent creatures suddenly unsure if they were prey. Evelyn Shaw stirred her tea slowly, the spoon clinking with each revolution, an almost metronomic tick in the fraying nerves of the Galactic Council. The Glithan delegate, once so sure in his hissed declarations, now avoided her eyes entirely. The Zareen emissary floated farther back in its containment sphere, posture tilted with uncertain deference. Even the Zarnak Prime, whose clawed fists had once drummed with warlike rhythm, sat motionless, gaze hollow. Evelyn sipped and exhaled. Lovely blend. I do appreciate a hall that respects the leaf. The silence stretched uncomfortably until the Arvik diplomat, always the most practical, cleared his throat. Envoy Shaw, if we may ask directly, what are you here to do? She blinked, surprised at the question. Do? Oh no. You've misunderstood. I'm not here to do anything. That didn't reassure anyone. I'm simply here to observe, to understand your intentions, to listen. She gave them a matronly smile. You're all so fascinating. The Lutheri tilted its luminous head. You destabilized 3 command networks during this conversation. Oh, that. She waved a hand as though brushing away a bit of lint. That was just to keep things honest. Honest, muttered the Zarnak, lips curling. Evelyn turned to him, her eyes friendly, her voice like a Sunday school teacher asking a child about the crayons he ate. You sent a ship into Earth orbit last month under the guise of weather observation. It tagged a deep-sea satellite. You remember that, don't you? The Zarnak didn't respond. I do, she continued gently, because the man aboard that satellite was my godson. He's, well, was, an artist. Brilliant with light sculpture. He painted with solar radiation. And now he's a collection of glowing atoms somewhere in the Mariana Trench. Her smile didn't falter. So, yes, I destabilized a few systems. It seemed proportionate. The Zarnak's jaw clicked shut. Evelyn turned to the rest of the council. You brought me here to measure humanity's fitness for alliance, yes? To assess whether we're civilized enough to sit at your table. There were nods. Reluctant. Slow. Well, she said, placing her mug down with a quiet clink. Here we are. A long beat passed before the Glithan delegate rasped. But you came unarmed. Alone. Untrue, Evelyn replied softly. I came with intent. That is the sharpest blade. The Lutheri's voice trembled. We were told humanity was emotional, messy, prone to internal division. We are, Evelyn agreed. But emotion can be a map, and division teaches strategy. You've mistaken chaos for carelessness. Behind her chair, something shimmered for a moment, almost nothing. A flicker. A change in light. When it passed, half the room had shifted back unconsciously. "I don't understand," muttered a small delegate from the Sidra Confederation. "We analyzed your species. You lack central cohesion. You're biologically weak, short-lived." "Yes," Evelyn interrupted kindly. "And yet here I sit, while many of your species have already begun to search for off-switches in their own programs." The Zarene's translator crackled. "Explain." She opened a case beside her, revealing a small projector. She pressed a button. The room dimmed, and a map appeared in the air, three-dimensional, vibrant, shifting like oil on water. It was the galaxy. And it was infected. Red threads wove silently through systems, trade routes, communication lines. "This," Evelyn said, "is where we are." Silence. Then someone whispered, "That's impossible." The red spread across space like a nervous system. "We sent diplomats," she continued. "We married your children. We repaired your ships. We taught in your schools. We asked for nothing." The Zarene flared. "That's infiltration." Evelyn turned toward them, tilting her head like a curious cat. "Oh no, dear. That's presence. Infiltration suggests secrecy. We just showed up. With smiles. And casseroles." One of the younger delegates from the Freelian Accord gasped. "My science minister married a human." "I hope she's happy," Evelyn said sincerely. The map shimmered. New tendrils appeared, ones no one in the room had seen before. "These are contingency locations. Not weapons. Just doors. If you push us, we open them. If you welcome us, we hold them closed." "Are you threatening us?" asked the Glithan, breath rasping. "I'm saying we belong here, whether you agree or not." The projector shut off. Evelyn folded her hands again. The Lutheri hovered closer. "Why reveal this now?" "Because the truth matters. And because I'm tired of being underestimated." The Zarnak Prime stood, claw twitching. "You could have made demands. Instead, you dismantle our security and smile over cookies." Evelyn shrugged. "Why not both?" He growled. "You hide knives in laughter." "We hide nothing," she replied. "You just aren't used to weapons shaped like patience and charm." A ripple moved through the council. Delegates whispered, recalculated. Behind her, another shimmer. This time, it lingered. A humanoid silhouette, faint and silent, flickered once and was gone. The Zarene's translator buzzed with static. "There is something in this chamber." Evelyn sipped her tea. One of the smaller delegates pressed a panic glyph under their seat. Nothing happened. "It's jammed," he whispered, voice tight with fear. Another shimmer behind Evelyn. Closer. The Arvik rose. "What are you?" Evelyn looked at him, deeply. Not just at his chitin-or eyes, but through him. "I'm the last polite knock before the door comes down." The Lutheri gasped. "You brought an infiltration team." "I didn't bring anything," she said. "I am the team." The silence broke into chaos. Delegates shouted. Some tried to flee, blocked by invisible walls. Others fumbled for comms that no longer responded. The Zarnak raised a blaster, melted in his hand before it cleared the holster. Evelyn rose slowly, brushing a crumb from her skirt. "Do sit. It's easier that way." "You're a monster," hissed the Arvik. "No," Evelyn said quietly. "I'm a gardener. But I know how to clear weeds." From the walls, projections lit up, footage from across the galaxy. Ships stopping mid-flight. Stations locking down. AI voices reporting command override, human diplomatic clause. The council fell into stunned quiet. "Why now?" asked the Lutheri, voice brittle. Evelyn looked at them with something close to pity. Because you've mistaken our curiosity for weakness, our chaos for disarray. But we were never disorganized. We were listening. Every insult, every scan, every little ambassador you thought vanished into the void. She stepped forward once. Just once. But it felt like gravity shifted. Humans didn't come here for power. We came to belong. And when you refused that, we made room anyway. The projector sparked once more. This time, it showed a countdown. 10 minutes. The Zareen hissed. What is that? Negotiation window, Evelyn said. Before the transition begins. Transition to what? Asked the Glyphon. Something more collaborative, she answered, tone soft as snow. Or less, depending. The Luthery's glow dimmed. You're giving us a choice? Always. That's the difference between us and tyrants. A beat passed. Then the Sidra delegate asked, voice shaking, what happens if we say no? Evelyn looked sad. Then Earth stops being charming. The countdown ticked lower. Council members looked at each other, uncertain. The Zarnak opened his mouth to protest, then looked at his comm again, and saw a new message. Your children have already signed the pact. He collapsed back into his seat. Evelyn returned to her chair. We didn't want to conquer you. We just wanted a seat. You laughed. Called us volatile. So we adapted. Another shimmer passed through the room. The Luthery saw it clearly this time, a human figure, eyes bright with something ancient. They bowed their head. Then let this be the beginning, they said. Evelyn smiled again. Thank you. T. A new kind of silence hung over the council, no longer confused or fearful, but taut like a drawn bow. Words were weapons now, and even the act of breathing too loud felt like a provocation. Some delegates stared at Evelyn Shaw with religious dread, others with the frozen calculus of war forming behind their eyes. The countdown ticked down. 7 minutes. Evelyn looked unbothered. She had returned to her seat with the air of someone who had simply reminded her neighbors not to park on her lawn. Her mug had gone cold, but she still held it lightly, as though warmth were optional. The Zarnak Prime stood again, but this time there was no swagger. His claws clicked against each other, not as a threat, but like prayer beads. You cannot mean to take the entire council hostage. Evelyn gave him a surprised look. Hostage? Oh no. This isn't a hostage situation. This is a conversation. It's just that you're only now beginning to understand who's sitting across the table. He stared at her, jaw twitching. This is warfare in disguise. Disguise. Evelyn echoed, gently amused. Dear, if we wanted war, you'd have smelled nothing but ozone when you woke up this morning. Oh. This is something else. The Glyphon rasped. Then what is this? A correction, Evelyn replied. You've grown complacent. Arrogant. You built a galaxy that works for the most powerful, and everyone else either kneels or vanishes. We humans, well, we don't vanish so easily. A screen near the ceiling flickered to life. Without prompt, it showed footage, a Zarnak scout fleet burning in atmosphere, screaming with confusion as their guidance systems turned against them. Another screen lit up, showing a Glyphon trade ring imploding, not with bombs, but from digital rot that had entered through a children's educational program developed on Earth. A third screen, smiling humans teaching alien orphans Earth languages, laughing, sharing games. And behind their laughter, silence, strategy, listening. The council was no longer just watching. It was witnessing. You think we act alone? Evelyn asked. That Earth is one mind. No. We are many minds. Sometimes contradictory. Often messy. But when we agree, when we truly agree, there's no force in the galaxy that moves faster. The Luthery watched her with unsettling stillness. This operation, how long? Since first contact, she said. Gasps. That was almost 50 of your years ago, the Zareen said, barely above a whisper. Evelyn nodded. It takes time to truly know someone, and to plant seeds. The Arvik delegate finally snapped. And what a free will! You speak of integration. But this is conquest. No, Evelyn said. It's invitation. We're just good at RSVP management. Suddenly, the ceiling shook. Not an explosion. Something heavier, denser. The air itself seemed to groan. From the walls, golden light pulsed once. And the countdown reset, now reading 3 o'clock. The Zarnak reached for his communicator again. This time, a single word blinked across the screen, obsolete. His face drained of color. You've subverted our command systems. Only those that were aimed at us, Evelyn replied with a hint of satisfaction. Think of it as a security patch. You have no right, he spat. None taken, Evelyn said calmly. But rights are often defined by who remains at the table. The floor beneath the council hall rippled, revealing a second structure beneath, compact, smooth, unmistakably Terran design. A stealth base, grown into the bones of the moon itself. The Lutheri spoke again, slower now. You didn't come to negotiate. You came to deliver a verdict. No, Evelyn said. I came to offer amnesty. The council erupted. Words crashed over one another in dozens of languages. Anger, fear, disbelief. Evelyn let them shout. When the fury ebbed, she spoke over the dying noise like a scalpel. We studied you for half a century. Your weaknesses, your fears, your patterns. And when you finally noticed us, it was already too late. We didn't need war. We just needed time. And politeness. The Lutheri leaned forward. Why show your hand now? Because you finally invited us in. The projector flickered again. This time, it showed star systems blinking red, then green. Earth's voice, not Evelyn's, came over the Council's internal systems. Galactic stability protocols initiated. Human diplomatic zone now expanded to Sector 12. The Zarnak snarled. That's our sector. It was, Evelyn corrected gently. On a far wall, a Zarnak lieutenant appeared via video, visibly bruised, visibly shaken. We surrender. The humans, they're already inside. They've been inside for years. Evelyn turned to the Zarnak Prime. You might want to update your internal memos. We've already been promoted. The countdown hit 1 minute. The Glithan rose, tail stiff. You will fracture the alliance with this display. No, Evelyn said. We'll fortify it. A system that fears truth cannot survive. We just accelerated the audit. The Arvik hissed. And those who don't comply? Evelyn looked at him with a terrible softness. They'll be politely removed. The floor shimmered again. Something cloaked, something vast, hovered just beneath the hall now. The structure trembled like a bell waiting to toll. The Lutheri bowed their head. We will support Earth's motion. One by one, delegates followed. All except the Zarnak. Evelyn's eyes turned to him. He stared at her, then finally looked away, and pressed his claw to the acceptance glyph. The countdown vanished. A new screen appeared, integration complete. Across the galaxy, human advisors stood, removed cloaks, activated protocols. Some hugged children. Others tapped datapads. One baked a pie. But the galaxy knew what had just happened. Power had shifted. Not with blood, but with design. Evelyn let out a long breath and picked up her mug. Cold now. Oh dear, she said lightly. Next time, I'll bring a thermos. No one laughed. But no one objected, either. They didn't speak, not at first. The hall was too full of aftermath. The council sat in stillness, watching the last flickers of resistance blink out on distant screens. Systems they had once controlled with cold precision were now simply quiet, subdued, reassigned. Evelyn Shaw sipped her lukewarm tea. The mug shook slightly in her fingers. Not from fear. She was simply tired. It had been a long mission. Across from her, the Lutherie broke the silence first. "It is done." "Yes," she said, lowering the mug. "Though done is such a final word. This is just a beginning." The Glithan delegate uncoiled and slumped. "Then begin with this. What do you want?" Evelyn's gaze slid across the room, and the tilt of her head was almost apologetic. "We want a galaxy where we don't have to hide. Where we're not just tolerated until we become inconvenient. We want room." The Zarnak Prime's voice was low. He sounded like someone who had lost an entire language in one afternoon. "You could have taken that with force." "We could have," she agreed. "But force is loud. Messy. We wanted a story you'd tell yourselves, that you invited us. That we earned it." The irony did not go unnoticed. But no one laughed. The Zarene's translator buzzed. "Is this the end of our sovereignty?" Evelyn smiled kindly. "Of course not. Just of your illusions. You're still you. We're not here to erase you. Just to remind you we're not animals at your gates. We've always been in the garden." She reached into her bag and withdrew a new item, a folded slip of pale blue paper. She unfolded it slowly, revealing lines of text, handwritten in curling, deliberate ink. "This is a list," she said, tapping the page. "It includes species who offered kindness when Earth first stumbled into the stars. Those who shared food, laughter, medical support. Some of you are on it." The Lutherie watched her hands. "And those who aren't." Her voice was gentle. "Well, there are many kinds of mercy." The Zarnak leaned forward. "So you do intend to punish us?" "I intend to remember you," Evelyn replied. He sat back. The Arvik, voice quiet, asked, "Then why stay? Why not return to Earth and let the fleets administer your will?" She looked at him, surprised. "Because someone has to teach you how to live with us. Not just under us." From her bag, she retrieved a second item, an old, worn book. Its spine was cracked, its pages browned. "The Art of Neighboring," she said, setting it down on the table. "I've found it helpful." The Glithan twitched. "This is satire?" "No. It's wisdom." They stared at the object as if it might explode. Evelyn stood again, not to threaten, not to dominate. She just needed to stretch her legs. Her knees weren't what they used to be. As she walked, the floor absorbed her steps silently. She circled the center of the hall, each delegate feeling her proximity like a gravitational tide. "Empires rise," she said softly, "because someone thinks they deserve to sit higher. They fall when no one believes it anymore." She stopped by the Zarnak's chair. "You don't have to fall. You just have to learn." He met her eyes, and for once did not flinch. "Teach us," he said. Her gaze softened. A chime rang out, unexpected and melodic. The Lutherie recognized it first. "Earth's High Council is requesting final communication." Evelyn nodded toward the ceiling. A shimmering screen opened like sunlight through morning mist. On it, a human face appeared, older, grayer than Evelyn, but with the same kind of eyes. "Status?" the voice asked. Evelyn stood tall. "Integration complete. No full resistance. Terms accepted. Council has acknowledged planetary parity." A pause. The voice on the screen looked past Evelyn, surveying the silent aliens. "Any complications?" Evelyn glanced around. Some bruised pride. A few melted weapons. One hurtful comment about tea quality. That earned a nervous murmur. "Understood. Proceed with diplomatic reconstruction." "And Evelyn?" "Yes. You've done well." She bowed her head slightly. The screen vanished. The Lutherie stood. "You spoke earlier of mercy, of remembering, and of chances. May we ask directly, do we still have one?" Evelyn turned to them. "You do. Not because you deserve it, but because someone has to start the new story. She returned to her seat, the cardigan falling into place like armor. "I won't lie to you," she said. "Earth is not perfect. We fight. We grieve. We invent monsters. But we also birth poets. We rescue strangers. We love fiercely, irrationally. And once we care, we don't let go." A beat passed. "I'm here because I care." The council watched her, not as a threat now, but as a force of nature wrapped in lace and linen. The Czarine floated closer. "Then what happens next?" Evelyn leaned forward, clasping her hands. "Now, you host us. You learn our holidays, our music, our breakfasts. You argue with us about politics. You fall in love with our terrible movies. You try ketchup. You complain about our weather." A few looked bewildered. She smiled wider. "And we'll try yours. We'll learn your songs, too. But you must understand, Earth does not do well in cages. Never has." She stood once more for the last time that day. "Invite us properly, and we'll build something beautiful together. Try to control us, and you'll see how polite we can be while ending you." Her tone was calm, but no one doubted her. She reached for her bag. "Now, I believe I promised cake." There was no fanfare, no applause. Just quiet shuffling as species who once considered themselves gods now made room for someone who wore cardigans and ended empires between sips of tea. And somewhere far above, the stars took notice.